Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Drew. We're talking to Drew Howard, professional powerlifter from Whitesburg. Drew, how you doing?
Buddy, I'm doing pretty good. You guys okay?
We're doing great. And first of all, we want to welcome you to 97.3 Horse Talk.
It's great to be here, buddy. I'm glad for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. And Drew, let's get right into it. I know you're a world champion, right?
Yep, got 8 world records currently, going for number 9 here pretty soon.
What's your records in?
Okay, I compete in bench only. If you're familiar with powerlifting, there's a lot of 3-lift lifters, so that would be full powerlifting, but I'm what's considered a bench press specialist, so I've been competing since I was 17. I've been lifting since I was 13, but competing since I was 17, and that's when I broke my first world and national record in the SPF was when I was 17 years old.
And so, Drew, what got you into powerlifting?
Well, I had a cousin that got me interested in it, and then I started lifting on my own and stuff, and just I really enjoyed it and realized my natural strength and stuff. And I said, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I'm gonna keep going, and I just kept going, and figured, hey, I'll make a career out of this.
And Drew, how old are you?
I'm 22 currently.
22, so you done lived in most of your life, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, I used to lift a little bit here and there with some of my other family members, some other cousins when I was younger, probably around 9 or 10 years old, playing around in the gym and stuff. So I've always been around, lifting and stuff, but I've just always loved it, to be honest with you, and that's always been my thing.
And so, where do you go to compete at on these lifts?
Well, I compete all over. I mean, they have competitions. I've been to Gatlinburg. They have competitions in Vegas. They have competitions overseas. I mean, there's different places. I would eventually like to go overseas. I've never been overseas, but eventually I would like to. But I try to stay as close as I can, like in the U.S. and stuff. I hate traveling. I hate staying in the hotels and going through that whole thing. But that's just part of it. So, you got to do what you got to do. And all I care about at the end of the day is getting that world record. So I sacrifice and I go out on a limb,
Drew, how many times do you compete each year?
Usually I'm competing twice a year. That allows me to go through a full training cycle, and my training cycles are usually 12 to 16 weeks. So I'll go through a full training cycle, and then I'll peak and go to a competition.
And so, how many times do you lift a week? You got certain routines. I know you have to probably have some off time too when you try to let your body recover. So, what's a typical week for you?
A typical week for me would be usually 3 to 4 training days. I'll do a heavy bench day, take a day's rest, and I'll train some arms, and then I'll go the next day and usually do a speed bench day. That's where I'm trying to build explosive power with sub-maximal weights. And my heavy day is really just to further my strength. I'm usually working in the 1 to 3 rep range on my heavy days and working up to a max triple, double, or single in some particular exercise. I alternate usually each week. But a typical week for me is basically that right there. I'll have my heavy day, my speed day, and then an arm day, and then usually I'll throw in my legs, upper back, and things like that on my last day.
Drew, what is your records in bench? How much can you bench? Is it for one rep or a couple reps? How's that work?
You always go for a 1 rep max in competition. So everything you do in the gym cannot count. You have to go to a sanctioned meet and do it. If you're not in a sanctioned competition, your lift cannot count. So what I do is, like I said, I peak for a competition, and then I go, and then the way it works in competition is you get 3 lifts. You start out with your opener, your second attempt, and then your last attempt. And the main thing to do, the smart thing to do, not everybody does it, but what I do is I start out with a lighter weight on my opening attempt that I know I can make, just kind of get my central nervous system warmed up, and then I'll jump to a little bit heavier weight on my second attempt, and if I'm not broken a world record or record by then, I'll jump up to it on my third attempt and go for everything.
So what is you hold the world record? So what is it?
Okay, so right now I hold the records from 17 to 22. I have three different federations I've competed in and broke their world records in my age and weight group. So I hold the junior world record in NGPF right now. That's one of the federations out there. Uh, I hold. I've done the most I've ever benched is 590. I've done that in a
590?
slingshot. Yeah, 590, and that was done at 22 years old.
But does it hurt your ribs? You got rapid ribs?
Yes, I wear wrist wraps. If you don't have wrist wraps on when you're going over 500 pounds, I mean, if you don't have wraps on and your wrists are weak at all, I mean, you could break a wrist. I mean, something's gonna happen more than likely with that type of weight in your hands.
Is it hard to find a training partner?
It is, yes. A lot of people love to talk and say, "Oh, I'm gonna come lift," and I want to be great at this too. But a lot of people come for a week or two, maybe a month, and then they see all the work involved and they're out. I mean, they won't stay. It takes a lot of willpower and a lot of determination, and you have to really love, weight training. I mean, you have to love it because the thing is, motivation comes and goes, but that's when the discipline's got to kick in. Because some days you may not be motivated.
And what motivates you, Drew?
I want to be the best of all time at what I do. I want to be the best bench presser of all time.
Drew, do you incline, decline, bench, fly? Give me an example of a chest routine, like sets and reps.
Okay, so on my max effort day, that's my heavy day. I will work up, for example, this past week I just worked up and I worked up to 475 pounds for a double. That's 2 reps. Okay. Then I'll go back down. I hit 405 for 2 sets of 5 on my back down sets. That's just kind of getting in more volume. And then I moved on and I started doing some incline. So I went up to about, I think it was 225 for, I think 5 sets of 12 on incline, just getting a good pump in my upper chest. And then I'll move on to my triceps. And the triceps are the main movers in the bench press, at least in my opinion. If you don't have huge triceps and you got to work the muscle around the elbow because that's where your lockout power is in your bench press. And then after that, I'll move on and do some shoulder and back work, just small. Like I said, I usually save my main back day and stuff towards the end of the week, but I'll hit a little bit at the end of my bench workout.
When you tricep work, do you dip, zone breakers, close grip? What do you do?
Usually I would do close grip. This week I done close grip after my main movements. I done 3 sets of 15, I believe it was, on my close grip bench, and I'll also do skull crushers. I'll alternate it most of the time because it'll kill my elbows out if I go heavy on skull crushers every week. But things like that, dips, like you said, dips are great. If your elbows can handle it, go for it. I mean, that will build your triceps up big time also.
Do you squat a lot too?
I will. I still squat just to keep my legs up. I'll squat and deadlift here and there. Most of the time, I'll do rack pulls, or like on squats, I'll do maybe work up to say 225, 315, then 405 for reps or so. But that's very rare. I usually don't go very heavy on the squat and deadlift where I'm not competing in it, so I don't want to risk that injury for nothing. If I was competing in all 3 lifts, of course I would do it just like my bench, but where I don't compete in it, I don't really push myself in the squat and deadlift.
I guess work your chest is a favorite.
Yeah. Bench press is absolutely my favorite. I fell in love with it when I was a teenager. And I mean, you walk into any gym, that's what everybody wants to know is how much do you bench,
Yeah, everybody asks how much you squat, how much you deadlift, how much you bench, right?
Yeah. But most of the time, see, a lot of people, they skip leg day. You've heard of skipping leg day. Everybody loves the bench press for the most part. But in my opinion, the bench press is the toughest lift because when I go compete, I see guys squatting 700-800 pounds, deadlifting 700-800, but you rarely see anybody benching. I mean, most of the time, people benching the 300s, 400s, even elite powerlifters who are at the level I am, they'll benching maybe the mid to upper fours most of the time if they're elite. But nobody, I mean, very rarely. There's probably 10 to 15 people on the planet benching over 600 to 700 pounds. That's way up there. That's top of the top. That's where I want to be at eventually as I get older and I hit my prime.
How can you achieve that goal?
Well, the main thing is just consistency. You have to outlast everybody. Everybody wants it right now, and you know that's the thing. I've seen a lot of great lifters come and go close to my age because they burn out too quick. They didn't have the mentality to stay in the sport long enough to be great, and that's what sets me aside. Is I'm willing to do whatever it takes. You know, I live in a box every day. I live in a bubble pretty much. You know, I do the same things. I'm in my own routine. And I'm just laser focused on achieving what I want. And like I said, that's being the best of all time.
So do you have a gym at home, or where do you live at?
Yes, I have my own gym at my house. I have a garage that I turned into a gym because I don't train in commercial gyms because there's just so many distractions and when you're going for the weights that I go for, when you're handling over 500 pounds on a weekly basis, you know, you got to have your mind right. You can't have people coming up asking you this or that or have too many distractions. Now, after the workout, it's okay, but during the workout, you got to have that focus or something could go wrong or your mind's not going to be right and you're going to miss that lift and that's going to set you back.
How about injury? That's part of it. So your elbows and your forearms and shoulders. How about that?
I maintain pretty well. I've never had a serious injury, thank God. I've never experienced anything major. I've had elbow soreness here and there. That just comes with it. You gotta know when to back it down a little bit. I mean, you get your normal soreness. I don't know what it's like to not have pain every day anymore because that's just part of the sport. You know, you're gonna have that pain. But as far as major injuries, I've never had any because I try to take care of my body and I try to, you know, like after a workout, I always eat my post-workout meal and get my recovery in. You know, I ice my elbows if I need to. I'll take a shower and what I'll do in it is do hot and cold therapy. So do about 1 minute hot, 1 minute cold, and that'll help flush the inflammation out.
And rest is a big part of this too.
Yes, very important. If you're not sleeping, I can sleep 10 to 11 hours a day, unless you know if I'm gonna have a busy day. Of course, I don't get to do that, but you know my body is just so worn down after my intense workouts and stuff. It really helps to get that sleep in. Sleep is one of the most important factors, and you know it's just like if you get a cut on your arm and you know you never let it heal, you keep picking at it, it's not going to recover, and your muscles are the same way. So you have to eat and you have to sleep. Those are the two very important components of this.
And how many days do you have a week or off days?
Usually I'll take Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are usually my off days.
And when's the next competition?
I have one coming up on July 23rd, and it is in Georgetown, Kentucky. It is, let me see if I can get this right, the Barbecue Bench Bash, I believe. I could be wrong, but it's put on by Bad Dad Barbell in Georgetown, Kentucky.
And the night before a big competition, you rest pretty good?
Well, you know, I try not to get too in my head about it. What I'm doing the night before, all the work is already done. I've already peaked and done what I need to do in the gym. So I'm just eating and recovering and getting my mind right. I'm visualizing, I'm seeing myself lift the weights that I have planned and getting the record that I want. You know, I always try to hit a personal best every competition I go to. Even if I don't hit a world record, I'm always trying to hit a personal best. I would love to come back on. I really appreciate you having me on, brother.
Man, maybe we can get you in the studio one of these days this summer, or you can call back in. And we do appreciate you, Drew, and hopefully you'll have a
Absolutely. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Drew. Have a blessed evening.
You too. We'll see you.